Hey, Justin, good to have you here with us. And you got a ton of experience in youth ministry, working with a lot of leaders and raising up multiple teams. So I was thinking for a lot of youth pastors out there, their question is kind of, okay, I want a youth ministry, I need a leadership team.
Right.
Where do I get them from? How do I start? So what would you say about like some keys to raising a youth leadership team?
Great question. I think, a lot of times we raise teams for tasks.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be the quickest thing. I want a youth ministry that looks like this, this, and this. So I need a captain of this, a coordinator of this, director of that. And you have this it's like an org chart in your mind. But ultimately, you have to work with the people that you have and build a team that is for team's sake. And then what can that team accomplish and achieve together? I almost think for me anyway, the way I'm bent, I have to build a team that is relational first and then task-oriented second. So Jesus, when he calls his disciples, it says 2 reasons that he appointed apostles: 1, to spend time together, and 2, that he could send them out. And you really don't know what you have to send out until you've spent time together, right? And so it's like that relational key, I think, is so critical. And so instead of let's put a team meeting on a calendar and go through an agenda, it's like there's got to be that time that's organic and real, and that there's laughing involved and kind of like a culture that is built. And I found the best results actually come out of that type of a feel. And so I found probably youth team meetings are somewhat effective, but if that's augmented with, and then we hang out and play foosball, and like we like doing stuff together, and we watch movies, and we're eating and we're talking. It's like that's where the ideas come, and that's where the accountability comes of like, man, I know what you're good at. If I asked you what you're good at, you might name the things that you feel personally confident in. But as I spend time with you, I recognize some things you never even knew. And as a leader, those are the things you want to call your team to. So I'd say it's like team for team's sake, and then we'll do the sending out. Instead of getting it inverted, I'm building a team so I can send them out. And if I have to spend time to do it, I guess I will, So it's like that time first and then the flow, which means long-term process. Like building a team that's built to last, as opposed to like, you think of it like in a professional sporting context. So often it's like we're building a team to win a championship this year at the cost of everything. But there's no culture to that team. There's no synergy. There's no chemistry. And so it's got to have that long haul type of feel.
Very good.
And it's often humbling for a leader to say, this is who I have. And so this is my team. I love what Jesus says in John 17 when he's praying, and he says, I've kept those that you've sent to me. So I always say to leaders, like, look at who you have. That's your team. So build them up instead of trying to recruit people who aren't even with you. Build up the people who are with you, and that will then determine what can we accomplish based on the gift mix that's in that room.
So good. Very good. Wow. I think, what would you say to like a youth leader in terms of, you've got leaders, everyone's trying to innovate, do something creative, something special, either for our young people or for outreach or whatever. So maybe from your experience, how do you find you're able to stay creative, stay innovating, either with your teams or even yourself as an individual?
Man, that's so good. I think, social media has helped and hurt this so much, right?
That's true.
Where you get to see the well-produced, filtered, edited, combed over best pictures of everyone else's ministry, and miss the whole creative process in there and just assume the result. And I think it can really stymie creativity when you're like, look what they did. We should have thought of that first. How many times have you heard an idea and thought, I could have thought of that first, right? And so I think there needs to be a little bit of a space and time given to, we want to be creative on such and such of an event at this point, and a time where it's actually just percolating in the background of your mind. So as you're living and you're observing art or spending time, you're listening to music, you're seeing those ideas are kind of filtering through your objective. And then I think the other thing is, so often we can try to be creative for other youth ministers to think we're creative. It's like, that's the wrong reason in the end, right? True. For someone to send us a text and say, I love that new sermon promo idea. It's like, in the end, who's my target audience? And those are the people I need to be creative for. So especially for a youth pastor who's been in it for a while, like we have, maybe a little bit older, it's like, we got to remember our target audience is like 14-year-olds or 16-year-olds. So what is it that is relevant to them, you know, like we probably shouldn't be talking about Back to the Future anymore because that era has come and gone, you know?
It's over.
So what's that thing that's relevant now? And so I think, you know, I think it's Carl Lentz who talks about having like a Bible in one hand and a newspaper in the other. Like it's like what's happening in life now and what is happening in the Word, and how can I bridge that gap. So
good. That
being said, I don't know, you'd probably find the same. Best creative ideas usually don't come in brainstorming sessions or blue sky sessions. They come in a moment where it hits, you know? And so I always try to, again, to bring it back to team, to pitch the ideas early instead of trying to make sure that I've come up with the perfect, well-polished idea, to pitch a raw thought or an unrefined thought to a team of people who hopefully are more creative than me and certainly are more culturally relevant than I am age-wise, and saying, here's the kind of results I want to get. How could we do that together? Cool. And then ultimately landing on the best idea in this room wins. Not my idea, not our creative director's idea, but the best idea is going to win. Let's have that kind of commitment that we're going for excellence. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Very good.
I love those moments when it hits you, like, oh, there it was. That was the one.
You just know it.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, very, very true. It's a great reminder. I had another question for you. What would you see, you've obviously seen a lot of youth pastors and youth leaders through your life and ministry, and what do you think is like one of the number one obstacle that youth leaders face? What would be like a big one for you? It might not be the number one, but a big thing that's common.
You know, I'd say certainly one that's common, I don't know how they'd rank, but having truly authentic, life-giving relationships in your life as a leader can be a real challenge. A lot of what you do is like on a stage or platform, and to have a disconnect between your life on platform and the real you, that's where all sorts of stuff goes down. That's where all sorts of miscommunications can happen, or disappointments for people where they saw you as something and see you as another. But authentic relationships, with whom can you have those when you're trying to lead as well? And so I think the thing I tell any young leader, old leader, it's like you need some real friends in your life that you're able to put your feet up and be yourself and have them call you out on something. You know, the Bible says that an enemy multiplies kisses. As a leader, you can so often just have flattery, you've got the public type of praise, but a friend is willing to cut deep and say, I see something in your life that shouldn't be there. And then it's a friend who gives encouragement. What a beautiful word, like encouragement, to give courage to someone else. And flattery doesn't actually bring encouragement, and numbers don't. Results that we look at on a like a spreadsheet, here's what this event needs to be, that doesn't actually bring encouragement. It's relationships that do. So it's kind of like the simplest thing ever. But if we just did the simple things, how easy would life be, right?
Very good.
And I think, like in the Bible, everything that we're called to do is simple. It's just not easy. So relationships, they're simple. Have friends, but it's not necessarily easy. I think time needs to be given to it, because you can very quickly find that your schedule becomes your boss. Or becomes the master of your life. I made these plans, and now I've got to stick to them. So you probably actually need to carve out time. I'm going to develop good friendships. And so for a leader, I think those friendships happen with other people who are leaders in other parts of the world, maybe even. But there also has to be some people who you're really doing life with day in, day out, who know you and who get your sense of humor.
They can see you.
Who can actually, not just see you on your best day, but see you on your worst as well. And I think, this isn't just a Twitter friend, right? You know what I mean? It's not just a we tag each other on social media friend. This is a friend who you're like, man, I need someone just to talk to today.
Good.
And that you could be honest enough to say, I'm having a bad day.
Really cares about you.
Ministry's hard today, and kind of do that. So I think that's probably, in my life, been one of the biggest obstacles. It's almost praised that ministry is the lonely road, but it's not the way Jesus did it. He brought people in and brought people close enough to see what he was like, close enough that John would say, I'm the one Jesus loves. He's like reclining on him. They're sitting at dinner, he's leaning on Jesus. Like that's how close Jesus allowed people to be. And so I want to be that type of a leader. Takes some time for sure, takes some effort, but do the simple things even when they're not easy.
Very good. Well, why don't I get you to just address direct to youth leaders? If you could say one thing to youth leaders, what would it be? just eyeball to the camera and let it rip. Yeah.
You know, I'd say this: what you're doing matters, and it probably matters for reasons that you won't ever actually see. So the young people that you're serving, you know, what they think they want isn't necessarily what they need. So a moment in time where you're like, that was good or that was bad, it's later in life when they look back, and you're raising a generation who will look back and say the impact that leader had, that's what mattered. And so when you're leading now, you want to be thinking about the kids and grandkids of those that you're leading. Who are the people I'm called to raise up? And don't do just the things that you know are going to get momentary praise from the people you're leading. Your praise, your recommendation, your commendation, it comes from God. And Jesus says, you know, the words from man, I mean, those don't really count for anything. It's the one who God commends. And so know that what you're called is a holy thing. It matters. It's important. It's significant. And the value of it is never going to be seen in the tally of how many people showed up at your last car rally event or your next barbecue event. It's the people whose lives you're investing in and you're changing. And so keep that long perspective. I know ministry's busy and it's crazy, but keep that long haul perspective. I'm doing this for generation after generation to come. And don't stop. Keep going. You're doing awesome. And what you're doing seriously matters. So that's about it. I think that's probably the thing we all need to,
thanks,
to remember
man.
and hear.
It was awesome. Thank you so much for taking time.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.